I left the house I paid for, while they sipped champagne on a yacht I booked. He didn't just uninvite me from the trip. He erased me from the life I built for him. So I erased the life, right back. I was standing in the kitchen of the house I paid for, pouring him his favorite espresso, when a message lit up my phone. Just one line. My mom wants this to be a family-only trip. Hope you understand. No sorry. No explanation. Just a digital knife, right between my ribs. I looked at the calendar. Highlighted in red was our trip to the Bahamas. I'd booked the yacht, the resort, the dinners, the matching swimwear his mother insisted on. And now, I wasn't invited? That's when it hit me. I wasn't family. I was the funding, the background planner, the woman who gave $1.2 million to build a business I wasn't even credited in. So no, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I made a different kind of plan. Because if they could fly off on a yacht I paid for, then I could make sure that when they came back, there'd be nothing left to come home to. I just stood there, frozen. Not in anger. Not even in heartbreak. Just stunned. Like the floor had moved a few inches beneath me and I hadn't adjusted yet. The message kept glowing on my screen. Family only. That word used to mean something. It used to mean Sunday dinners, long talks, and shared dreams. But now, it was just code for you don't belong. I turned and looked at the house around me. The designer couch we picked out after Greg got his first big client. I paid for it. The kitchen island his mom always complimented. That was me too. Even the espresso machine that hissed in the background. I bought that the day he signed the lease on his first office. I remember how proud he looked. And how proud I felt. To help him win. But now? Now I felt like a guest. Like a maid who'd overstayed her welcome. I walked over to the foyer, where 3 suitcases were stacked near the door. 2 had tags with Greg's and his mom's names. The third, mine, was packed, folded neatly. Still zipped. Still ready. It felt like looking at a ghost of a version of me that still believed I was included. I sat on the stairs and stared at it. The silence in the house was loud. A silence that didn't scream, it whispered. It whispered, "You've been replaced." Quietly. I opened our family group chat, half expecting a joke or a correction. But instead, I found pictures. Photos of packed bags. A spa appointment confirmation for Evelyn. Greg's sister Ashley bragging about their color-coordinated outfits for the family shoot in Nassau. And me? Not even a tag. Not even an emoji. It was like watching my own life continue, without me in it. That's when I remembered. 3 years ago, Greg had broken down in our garage. Sweat on his brow. Tears in his eyes. His startup was failing. He was drowning in debt. His voice cracked as he whispered. "It's over, Tess." And I, stupid, loyal me, had said, "No. It's just beginning." I wired $1.2 million that night. Every last cent of what my father left me. No contract. No prenup. No protection. Just trust. And love. Turns out, that kind of love doesn't earn you a seat on the yacht. Not when Evelyn decides the guest list. I stood up. Went into the study Greg called his war room. Every piece of furniture in there had my name on the receipt. The globe. The map of ports. The crystal decanter from Morocco. All of it. And suddenly, I didn't feel like crying anymore. I felt cold. Clear. Not angry. Not yet. But I could feel something rising in me. The kind of stillness you feel right before a storm rolls in off the coast. If I wasn't family enough to go on that trip, then maybe I wasn't family enough to keep this empire running, either. And when the builder walks away, Let's see how long the kingdom lasts. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid in bed with the covers pulled up to my chest, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me like it might answer for everything. The man I built a life with was on a yacht I booked, drinking wine I paid for, beside a woman who treated me like a stain on her linen napkin. And me? I was at home. In the shadows. In the house that had my name on the deed. By sunrise, I had made a decision. Not to scream. Not to beg. Just move. Quietly. Precisely. Like a woman who'd already been erased, and now had nothing left to protect. I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat at the dining table, and opened my laptop. At the top of my bookmarks was a contact I hadn't used in years. Mariana Price, Corporate Law, Asset Protection, Divorce and Litigation. We met 7 years ago at a women's leadership panel. She wore all black and carried an energy that said, "Try me. I dare you." I booked a meeting for that same afternoon. By noon, I was sitting across from her in a sleek glass office in Brickell. Mariana didn't waste time with small talk. She skimmed the summary I'd emailed her the night before. Bank transfers, business registrations, tax returns, property deeds. And raised one eyebrow. "So you're telling me you gave him $1.2 million to start a business? That's now worth at least triple that. And your name isn't on anything?" I nodded, lips pressed tight. She leaned back, steepling her fingers. "Tessa, you're not invisible. You're unsecured. But the good news? Greg's business isn't as bulletproof as he thinks." She reached for a legal pad and began writing. "The boats? Leased under your credit. The vendor contracts? You negotiated and signed. Payroll? Still linked to your original tax ID. And the dock lease?" She looked up. "Your name. Top line." My heart beat a little louder. Not from fear, but from the quiet return of power. Mariana slid the notepad toward me. "You're sitting on a powder keg of leverage. The only question is, do you want to sue him? Or do you want to surprise him?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I closed my eyes and thought of Evelyn's voice, dripping with sweet venom as she once told me. "You're the kind of woman men respect, but don't need." I opened my eyes. And smiled. Let's surprise him. That night, I changed all my passwords. I froze the credit card tied to his business expenses. I contacted the yacht broker and inquired about current resale values. And I called the building manager who handled the lease on the dock. His voice was casual, unaware. "Oh yeah, the dock's under Ms. Tessa Morgan, still. Auto-renewed last spring." Perfect. Back at home, I sat on the couch where Greg once cried in my arms. Now I sat alone. Not crying. Just planning. Because some women wait to be invited back in. Others? We quietly start, taking it all back. The next morning, I made the bed like I always did. I fluffed the pillows. Straightened the throw blanket. Wiped the marble counter till it gleamed. Not for Greg. Not for Evelyn. Just for me. Because this wasn't a meltdown. This was an exit plan. And the house? It was step 1. I grabbed my phone and opened the Airbnb Luxe app. This place had always looked like a magazine spread. Modern art. Infinity pool. Ocean view from the upstairs balcony. Greg used to brag about it to clients. "We host from here. It's a vibe." He loved the house. Called it ours. But the deed said otherwise. Tessa Morgan. Sole owner. So I listed it. 7 days. High season. Premium price. Full amenities. And for the listing title? Modern waterfront villa, discreet bookings welcome. I hit publish. Within 24 hours, I had 3 requests. One from a tech entrepreneur hosting an offsite. One from a film crew needing a high-end set. And the third. A group of artists from LA. Coming to Miami for Art Basel. They paid in full. Requested a fridge stocked with champagne. Asked if they could use the sound system. Even offered extra for early check-in. I said yes to everything. The date? They'd arrive the exact morning Greg and his family were due back from the Bahamas. Poetic. That afternoon, I called Zara. She was my best friend. My ride or die. My witness to every Evelyn insult and every Greg excuse. When she answered, I didn't say anything right away. Just sent her the Airbnb confirmation. She replied with 3 words. It's time, babe. An hour later, she pulled up in her Tesla with 2 iced coffees and a laptop. She wore a t-shirt that said "Plotting in Progress." We sat at my dining table like generals. I filled her in on Mariana, the assets, the leverage. Zara smiled and opened 5 tabs at once. First, we locked down the business cards. Then we check the bank access. And finally, we pull his digital leash. She leaned in, eyes glowing. He left the house without locking the vault, Tess. Let's make sure he doesn't get back in. We froze every company account with my name. Changed logins. Reviewed financials. Turns out, Greg had been so busy enjoying the CEO lifestyle. He forgot to secure the empire's foundation. And I'd been that foundation all along. Zara laughed as she clicked through the yacht insurance documents. Still under you. Every signature. Every receipt. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was just reclaiming my space. As the sun set over the bay, I stood on the upstairs balcony, watching the reflection of palm trees ripple in the pool. Downstairs, Zara poured champagne. Not to celebrate him being gone, but to toast me coming back to life. Because when a woman stops waiting to be chosen, she becomes someone you can't ignore. The next day, I drove down to the marina. It was early, sun just rising over Biscayne Bay, casting gold over the water. The dock was quiet. Calm. Not like the nights Greg used to host parties here. Back then, it smelled like cologne, salt, and ego. I stepped onto the pier and walked toward the yacht. Her name was Serafina. Greg once said it meant fiery angel. Fitting, I guess. Considering she was bought with my inheritance. And now, she was about to become something else entirely. Mine. Then, someone else's. I met with the broker at the end of the dock. A sharp woman named Claudia Lynn, recommended by Zara. She wore white linen, a Rolex, and spoke in quiet, lethal efficiency. You're the sole owner? I am. Paperwork clean? Every page. Then let's talk buyers. Claudia had 3 prospects lined up by sunset. All cash offers. All men who'd probably never ask their wives to step off the boat for a family-only vacation. We picked the highest bid. Signed documents in a breeze. She turned to me, sliding her sunglasses on. By the time Greg docks back in, he won't have a boat to tie down. On my way home, I passed Greg's favorite cigar bar. The one where he used to network with clients. I wondered if he ever told them how the business actually started. Doubt it. He was always more comfortable playing self-made CEO than acknowledging the woman who paid for his rise. And the boats? They were his favorite illusion. He'd pose for pictures, host fundraisers, pitch investors while standing on the teakwood deck, smiling like he built it all himself. But you know what illusions hate most? Receipts. And I had them all. That evening, Zara came over with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. I showed her the final wire confirmation. $1.9 million. Cleared and deposited. She nearly choked on a dumpling. Tess, you just sold his entire manhood. I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in weeks. No, I said. I just sold his favorite stage prop. We sat on the rooftop patio, the Miami skyline blinking like a lie detector in the distance. Zara raised her glass. To truth. To peace. I replied. And to taking back what's ours. Later that night, I walked barefoot through the now empty dock. The yacht was gone. The water was still. And in that quiet, I didn't feel like a woman who'd lost something. I felt like a woman who'd just declared independence. Because sometimes, taking away a man's illusion is the cruelest kindness of all. They weren't supposed to come back early. But the universe? It has a cruel sense of timing. I was in the middle of rearranging some furniture for the Airbnb guests when Zara burst into the living room, phone in hand. You need to see this. Now. It was a post from Greg's sister, Ashley. A boomerang video at the airport. The caption? Flight cancelled. Family trip cut short but memories made 2 hearts airplane. They were already boarding the next flight back to Miami. ETA, 3 hours. Zara stared at me. You good? More than good, I said, calmly stacking throw pillows on the couch. Because it didn't matter. The house was legally rented. The business was already sold. The yacht? Long gone. Let them walk into the ruins of their illusion. By 6:30 p.m., the house was alive. Music echoed through the halls. Lights twinkled from rented string bulbs hung across the backyard. A group of young artists and tech founders danced barefoot on the patio, champagne in hand. They'd turned the place into something vibrant. Messy. Real. And I was across the street in Zara's car. Windows down. Cold sodas in hand. Watching. At 7:04 p.m., a black SUV pulled up. First came Evelyn. In designer flats and an airport silk set, dragging a suitcase like it owed her money. Greg followed. Tan. Sunglasses on. Confident. Until he heard the music. He froze at the end of the driveway. His mouth slowly opened. What the hell? Evelyn pushed past him, heels tapping faster as she stormed up the steps. But before they could even ring the bell, the door opened. And a stranger with a martini answered. Can I help you? Greg blinked. Yeah. This is my house. The man laughed, confused. No offense, bro, but it's not. We rented it for the week. From someone named. He checked his phone. Tessa Morgan. Greg turned sharply. His eyes found me across the street. Jaw clenched. He stormed toward me. Tessa. What the F***ck is going on? I stepped out of Zara's car. Calm. No makeup. Black tee. Legal folder in hand. You're back early, I said. Shame. He was red now. Evelyn stomped behind him. How dare you rent out our home, she snapped. I held up the folder. My home. Check the deed again. Greg grabbed the documents. Flipped through. His hand shook as his eyes caught the next page. These are business transfer papers. Correct. The company's sold. Yacht's gone. Cards closed. And I pointed at the party behind him. You're not on the guest list. Evelyn gasped. This is petty. Cruel. No, Evelyn. What's cruel is pretending someone doesn't exist in their own life. This? I said, stepping back. This is just reality, catching up. Greg's voice cracked. You're kicking us out? No. I'm honoring your wish, remember? Family-only vacation. Enjoy your family. Somewhere else. And with that, I turned. Zara locked arms with me. And we walked away. While behind us, the music rose. And Greg stood holding the paperwork that told him everything he thought was his, was already gone. The next morning, my phone lit up. 6 missed calls. All from Greg. By the time I finished my tea, it became 11. Then 14. Then a voicemail. I didn't press play right away. I just watched the little waveform pulse like a heartbeat I no longer needed to sync with. Eventually, I put the phone to my ear. His voice was shaky. Small. Nothing like the man who once called himself CEO of a luxury empire. Tess. I don't know what's going on. Please. We need to talk. Just us. No lawyers. No Zara. No revenge. Can we fix this? I let it finish. Then hit delete. Funny how silence becomes a wall. A shield. A mirror. I wasn't ignoring him to be cruel. I just didn't need to explain. Because deep down, he already knew. He knew the second he told me I wasn't invited. He knew when he looked me in the eye and saw nothing. No tears, no panic. Just that dangerous calm. He kept trying. A flower delivery. White lilies. The ones Evelyn once told me looked cheap. A handwritten note left at the bakery where Zara's cousin worked. Tessa, please. I messed up. Let me make this right. Let's talk. But we had already talked. When I wired $1.2 million. When I stayed up building his website. When I smiled through Evelyn's insults. When I booked the vacation that erased me. I had talked. In every unpaid hour. Every silent compromise. Now, he was just hearing the echo. That week, I met with Mariana again. We filed the papers, legal separation. Not out of spite. Not even anger. But clarity. You're sure? Mariana asked. I nodded. He didn't break me. He just revealed himself. Meanwhile, the house rental wrapped up. The guests left the place cleaner than they found it. A handwritten thank you note sat on the counter. Thank you for letting us create joy here. The energy in this home is powerful. I smiled. Then locked the door behind me. I didn't move back in. Instead, I signed a lease for a penthouse overlooking Brickell Bay. Tall windows. Quiet mornings. A space that smelled like fresh starts. Zara helped me hang the first picture frame. It was a photo of my dad. The man who taught me to stand up quietly, even when people sit you down loudly. We toasted with sparkling water. So what now? Zara asked. I looked around at the sunlight pouring through the windows. Now. I build something that's actually mine. Because some endings don't need punctuation. No slam of the door. No dramatic monologue. Just a woman. Walking away so powerfully. That silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. People assumed I'd go back to the house. They thought once the dust settled. Once the legal papers were signed. Once Greg stopped calling. I'd slip right back into the role I'd been trained to play. Caretaker. Helper. Background fixture. But I didn't. Because I didn't need a house full of echoes. I needed a place full of life. 3 weeks later, I signed a lease on a small waterfront space. Just down the pier from where Serafina used to be docked. It wasn't much. White walls. Dusty windows. A creaky espresso machine that wheezed when I plugged it in. But to me? It was sacred. The first thing I ever built that was entirely mine. Zara helped me paint the walls. My cousin Mila donated furniture from her old boutique cafe. Even Claudia, the yacht broker, showed up with fresh flowers and the best cinnamon rolls I'd ever tasted. And when it was finally ready, I hung the sign myself. Morgan's Morning. A place for quiet coffee. soft bread. And people starting over. Just like me. The first customer was a woman in her 60s. She wore running shoes and sadness in her eyes. She ordered a scone and sat by the window. When I brought her tea, she whispered. I left my husband last week. After 39 years. This feels like breathing again. She stayed for 2 hours. By the end of the month, we had regulars. A retired sailor who told stories to strangers. A young single dad who brought his toddler in for muffins every Saturday. A local artist who sketched the view while sipping oat milk lattes. There were no yachts. No champagne. No curated Instagram backdrops. Just warmth. Just peace. One afternoon, while stocking croissants behind the counter, Zara walked in, grinning. She held up her phone. You're gonna love this. It was a photo from her friend who lived near the house. Greg and Evelyn were standing on the curb. Suitcases at their feet. Confused. Frustrated. The caption? Looks like someone forgot to book a hotel, again. I laughed. Not cruelly. Not triumphantly. Just, freely. Because they still didn't get it. This wasn't revenge. This was healing. This was choosing myself over the version of me they'd edited out of their life. The next morning, a woman came in holding a notepad. She ordered a cappuccino, sat down, and started writing. Before she left, she came to the counter. This place, there's something about it. Feels like it was built by someone who survived something. I smiled. It was. Because Morgan's Morning wasn't just a cafe. It was a quiet rebellion. A sanctuary. Proof that you don't need noise to make a point. Sometimes the boldest thing you can do is start again. Without asking permission. It was a Tuesday morning. The cafe was quiet. Just the way I liked it. Soft jazz playing through the speakers. Cinnamon in the air. A fresh tray of blueberry muffins steaming behind the counter. I was setting out water for the plants near the window. When I felt it. That tingle in the back of your neck. When a ghost walks in wearing real skin. I turned. And there he was. Greg. He looked different. Not thinner. Not disheveled. Just, smaller. Like the man who once filled every room with noise. Was now unsure how to take up space. He stood there, one hand still on the door. Like he wasn't sure if he should have opened it at all. I didn't say a word. Just raised an eyebrow. He took a step closer. Hey. That word used to unlock everything. Now it bounced off the walls and fell flat. I turned back to the espresso machine. Let the steam hiss between us. He waited. Then spoke again, softer this time. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. He continued. I thought you'd always be there. I didn't realize how much I leaned on you. Until you stepped away. He exhaled. A man unraveling. I lost the business. Evelyn moved in with Ashley. The house is in foreclosure. Still, I said nothing. Because what was there left to say? That hadn't already been said by my absence? Finally, I turned to face him. Met his eyes. You didn't lose me, Greg. You erased me. He swallowed hard. Can we ever go back? I looked around the cafe. At the photos on the walls. At the smiling regulars. At the warmth I had built with my own 2 hands. No, I said gently. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm just free. Greg nodded slowly. He looked like a man who had come to reclaim something, only to realize it had grown wings and flown. He stood there for a moment longer. Then turned. And walked out the door he never thought I'd close. Zara walked in a few seconds later, holding 2 iced lattes. Was that who I think it was? I nodded. She handed me the drink. You okay? I smiled. For the first time in years. We sat by the window. Watched the world go by. No drama. No storm. Just peace. Because sometimes closure doesn't come in the form of a second chance. It comes in the form of a clear heart. And an open morning. With no one left to apologize to. A month passed. Morgan's morning was no longer a secret. Word spread, quietly, like good things often do. We had a wait list on weekends. A chalkboard menu that changed with the weather. And more laughter in a day than I'd had in years. But something else had changed too. Me. Not in big, dramatic ways. I still woke up early. Still wiped counters twice. Still checked the espresso pressure like it was sacred. But inside, something had softened. The kind of softness that doesn't come from weakness, but from surviving the hard without letting it harden you. One Saturday, I was setting up tables on the outdoor deck, when a man walked by with a little girl on his shoulders. She had curly hair and chocolate on her cheeks. He had tired eyes and a kind smile. He paused at the chalkboard menu. She loves banana bread, he said. You still have some? I nodded. Fresh out of the oven. They stayed. Shared one muffin. She gave me a sticker from her backpack before they left. He smiled and said, "This place feels like someone built it with care." I smiled back. I did. That night, I sat on the rooftop with Zara. No drama. Just wine and sky. She leaned back in her chair. You've changed, you know. Have I? Yeah. You used to carry your strength like armor. Now it's, like breath. I didn't respond. Just watched the lights of the city blink around us. Each one a life still going. Each one a woman. Who maybe needed to hear. You're allowed to begin again. Even without permission. We planned a soft open for the second location the next month. Just a tiny satellite cafe at the North Marina. Nothing fancy. No launch party. Just a handwritten sign. Morgan's morning, now docked north. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt open. To growth. To lightness. To maybe, just maybe, letting someone in again someday. Not because I needed saving. But because I had already saved myself. A customer once asked me, "Why did you name it Morgan's Morning?" And I told her the truth. Because mornings are about beginnings. And Morgan? She finally gave herself one. Because the real power isn't walking away in flames. It's walking toward yourself. With steady feet, open palms. And a heart that remembers. It still knows how to bloom. It happened on a Thursday. Late afternoon. Sky full of slow clouds. The kind of day that made the ocean look tired too. I was behind the counter at the cafe. Folding napkins, smiling to myself. As Billie Holiday hummed through the speakers. Then the door chimed. And in walked Ashley. Greg's sister. The same one who used to text me holiday recipes. Who posted group selfies from the yacht trip. I wasn't invited to. She looked older somehow. Not in age. In weight. Like regret had started settling on her shoulders. She hesitated by the register. I scanning the menu like it was written in a language she used to know. I didn't rush over. Didn't fake a smile. I waited. She finally looked up. "Tessa, do you have a moment?" I nodded once, slowly. She followed me to the corner table. Sat down like someone approaching a grave they forgot to visit. "I've been meaning to come for a while," she started. "But I didn't know if I should." I tilted my head. Let her talk. I just wanted to say. I saw everything too late. What you did for him. for all of us. I think I knew it even back then. But it was easier to stay on the boat and pretend it wasn't sinking. She reached into her purse, pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a photo. Me. Greg. Ashley. Evelyn. Taken years ago, during a Thanksgiving I'd cooked entirely by myself. Everyone was smiling. But I remember that day. I was exhausted. Ignored. Invisible. Now, the picture looked different. Now. I wasn't in the background. I was the one holding it all together. Ashley wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. For not saying something. For not standing up for you. I exhaled slowly. Then said, calmly. You don't need to apologize for who you were. Just decide who you want to be now. She nodded, tearfully. You built something beautiful, Tess. I smiled, this time genuinely. Yes. I did. She left a few minutes later. No drama. No closure speech. Just a quiet understanding between two women. Who now saw the same truth. From opposite sides of a burned bridge. That night, Zara and I walked along the pier behind the cafe. She tossed popcorn into the water for the gulls. I told her about Ashley. She grinned. You flinched? Not even a blink. She raised her drink. To growth. To grounded. Because the true test of healing isn't how loud you shout your strength. It's how calm you stay. When the past tries to whisper your name again. And me? I heard it. I nodded. And then I turned. Back toward the life I chose. I never wrote to myself. Not once. Not when I gave up my inheritance. Not when Evelyn cut me out of every group chat. Not even the night I watched strangers party in my living room. While the man I loved stared at me like I was a threat to his kingdom. But today, I did. I sat in the back of Morgan's morning. Right before opening hour. Pen in hand, coffee in reach. And finally, I wrote. Not to Greg. Not to Evelyn. Not even to Zara. I wrote to her. The version of me that stayed too long. That smiled too politely. That lowered her voice to keep the peace. This is what I wrote. Dear me. You did good. Even when they didn't say thank you. Even when they rewrote the story and erased your name from the credits. You showed up. You built. You loved without conditions. And when it was time to walk away, you didn't burn it down. You just walked out with the blueprint still in your hands. That's power. I forgive you for the years you stayed silent. For the dinners you cooked just to be ignored. For the dreams you postponed in the name of someone else's spotlight. But I'm so proud of you for what you did next. For choosing peace over chaos. For creating something beautiful out of the broken. For remembering that your worth was never tied to anyone else's validation. This morning cafe? This soft laughter and smell of cinnamon? This quiet? It's all yours. And from now on, you are no longer someone's afterthought. You are your own beginning asterisk. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer beneath the register. Not to hide it. But to remind myself, every day, who I chose to become. That afternoon, a teenage girl came in with her mom. They sat by the window. Argued quietly about something trivial. Then shared a piece of banana bread in silence. Before leaving, the girl paused at the counter. Are you the owner? Yes, I said. She looked around. Then whispered. It feels safe in here. I smiled. That's the point. Because the real revenge isn't in taking back what they took. It's in becoming someone they never thought you could be. And no longer needing them to notice. I opened the cafe the next day like always. Music low. Muffins fresh. Sunlight pouring through the windows. And this time, for the first time, I didn't feel like the woman who'd lost everything. I felt like the woman who had finally found herself. When someone removes you from the story, don't beg to be written back in. Start a new page. Build your own book. And make it one they'll wish they'd stayed in.